So I remember back in January listening to the news and understanding, gee, there's this pandemic, or not even a pandemic, an epidemic that was in Wuhan, China. And in my mind, I thought, oh, could this be what we're thinking could be global? And I remember those thoughts, and it was just a thought. And fast forward to March when the reality hit, watching the news, also having conversations with the state, the Vermont Department of Health, and realizing this is happening here. It's happening here in the United States, and we need to really get prepared and get ready. So it was definitely a defining moment, I would say, for me personally and professionally. It was a piece that it happened. I had a thought, and then when it happened in March, I was like, oh, this is real.
Yeah, Dina, there are so many moments. I mean, it's like when you stand up incident command, usually for a crisis, it's something that happens immediately. This was a gradual thing that we were kind of watching, and we obviously didn't stand up incident command back then because it wasn't a pressing issue for our resources. But I remember that too. And on a personal note, when it left China, it went to Europe, and my daughter was studying in Milan, and that yes. was the epicenter in Italy around that time. And so, fortunately, she was okay, and we brought her back. But that's when it became real for me on a personal note. And then, of course, here there are so many moments to recollect where, okay, we're going to have to prepare. We're going to have to watch our resources. We're going to have to look at our protocols and our processes. And then suddenly we had so many calls coming in and requests to manage that we had to say, that was the moment when we knew we had to stand up incident command. Yeah. And then there are other moments once you've stood up incident command, well, it's not here yet, but it's in New York, it's in New Jersey, it's in Boston, and we're like, okay, all those moments, and then we got our first one here. And then are we gonna be overwhelmed tonight? Is tonight the night? And then you get two and you're like, it's the night. It's gonna be, we're gonna be in trouble. And how are we going to handle this? How are we going to manage it? And so I remember all those moments vividly.
True, and just thinking again, you've reminded me, my son lives in Seattle, similar to your daughter. That was one of the first hot spots in the United States, and just thinking about him in that space, taking precautions, and it wasn't soon after that it became, nationwide, that we were all managing and handling COVID. Yeah. And in this segment, you'll see some other NMC employees reflect on their experience at the time and the moment in which folks realized this was real.
It's kind of that eerie feeling, like you're ready. Every day you got more ready, and you're just sort of waiting, kind of like being in a room and all you can hear is the clock ticking. So I was going to bed for the evening, and I got a text message, and I don't remember who sent me the text message, but it was the first patient that came in. And so that was, okay, here we go.
When we had our very first patient, and watching what they looked like one day to the next shift when I came in, and watching that deterioration. One day they looked like they were gonna go play golf. The next day they were on a ventilator, and then a few days later they were gone. And that's what really hit me, that, oh my God, this is more. That, this really is a debilitating disease and can be fatal. It's one of those things you have to see it with your eyes for you to really understand it.
I took a call from my mom, and she told me she couldn't find any food. She couldn't find food.
And your mom is, where does she live?
In New York. And at the time it was a very high, they had spiked. They had a lot of positives, so going out was very risky for her. And her and my father both have a lot of comorbidities, so, and I can't go there. You know, I couldn't get there to help them. I didn't have a mechanism to get them food. You know, and it was very tricky to try to manage the incident here and manage what I felt like was an incident at home.
From like March 22nd to April 12th, I think, we had 9 patients admitted to NMC that were COVID positive. And we had several of those patients die, and it was very, very real. And in a couple of situations, there were people that were familiar to members of the community and members of the NMC family. So therefore, it hit us all like a ton of bricks.
It was a Friday. I was getting ready to leave somewhat on time. It was after 4, and as I went to walk out, I heard people say, "We need people in the ambulance bay to clean." And I was like, oh my God, we're gonna use the ambulance bay as an overflow. And so all of us kind of turned, grabbed rags, went in there. I mean, there was just a variety of us. So that was a really real moment for me.
Throughout the years that I've been here, we've practiced, or we've talked about setting up alternate sites away from the hospital for a disaster situation, but we've never actually done it. So when the National Guard was called in and we took Collins Purley and set up a 50-bed field hospital, you really realized this could get bad, and we started preparing. So that was intense, and yeah, that kind of made it real, and I think it continued on for, well, here we are, we're still living it.